name is Dr. Aidan Elliott and this is the Complete Guide to Shakespeare. This video explores the theme of ambition in Macbeth. I will discuss its role in the story and highlight key quotes that you can use in tests, essays and examinations. If you're asked an exam question about ambition in Macbeth, the likelihood is that you'll be asked something like, how is the theme presented in a particular passage? And then, how is it presented in the play as a whole? So before we look at particular quotes, it'll be helpful to understand why Macbeth's ambition to be king was problematic in the context of Elizabethan society. So why is that? Well, it's because Elizabethans saw themselves as part of a very hierarchical world. They called it the great chain of being, where everything is linked. And another metaphor they used was life ordered as a number of steps, where everything and everyone had its position, from the minerals of the earth at the bottom, via plants, animals, humans and angels, until we reach God at the top. There are also subdivisions. Eagles, for example, come above owls, lords come above peasants, and monarchs come above all other humans. So in this model, monarchs were seen as God's representatives on earth. Now I tell you this because in this context, Macbeth should not even have an ambition to be king. It's a transgressive act even to think about moving up a step to be king. Transgressive here means the violation of accepted social boundaries. And Macbeth appears to accept these limitations at the start of the play when he says, to be king stands not within the prospect of belief, no more than to be Cawdor. Stands not within the prospect of means that Macbeth thinks that it is impossible to become king, because kings are appointed by God and cannot be forcibly removed. But notice that he says the idea of becoming king cannot be believed any more than he can believe he will become Thane of Cawdor. The two are linked in Macbeth's mind, which is why what happens next is so important. Because just 30 lines later, Macbeth hears that he has been made Thane of Cawdor. This announcement is important because it gives the Weird Sisters' prophecy immediate credibility, and because becoming Cawdor is linked to becoming king, at least in Macbeth's mind. So if one of these is possible, so is the other. It makes him feel as though his ambition is actually now possible. But note the idea of transgression appears in his very first thoughts. My thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical. His thought is that his ambition to be king needs to be achieved by murder, but the idea remains fantastical. It's only in his imagination. And as he says moments later, perhaps he won't need to murder Duncan. If chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir. Perhaps he won't have to make his murderous thoughts a reality, a point that Lady Macbeth will come back to later. But in the very next scene, Macbeth hears Duncan announce that his son Malcolm will succeed him as the next king. And Macbeth then says to the audience, that is a step on which I must fall down, or else o'erleap, for in my way it lies. That refers to Malcolm, Duncan's son. His ambition now faces two physical obstacles, Duncan and Malcolm. And notice the verb o'erleap. The idea of jumping over something can also be seen at the end of Act 1. He says, we jump the life to come, and also vaulting ambition which o'erleaps itself. So he would like to jump over the existing royal family to become the monarch. Note also the idea that he might fall on a step. Now, we heard this idea of steps earlier in this video in the concept of the steps in the great chain of being. So as he tries to step up, he might fall. So the reality sets in that he must murder Duncan to seize the crown, but then he hopes that but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all. That but this means if only. And the blow is the one that will kill Duncan. Macbeth wants the laws of cause and effect basically to stop working. If only the killing of Duncan could be all that happens, and that it would be the end of it. He wants to achieve his ambition of being king without any reaction from the wider world. His concerns about the consequences of his actions then merge with the earlier idea of jumping over things when he says, "I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other." In this complex metaphor, Macbeth picks up the idea of o'erleaping that was mentioned earlier. He characterises his intention to kill the king as a horse that needs a spur. Spurs are worn by horse riders to jab a horse to make it move. But the only spur Macbeth possesses is his ambition itself, which itself is a horse that can only spur itself to vault or jump too far, which is o'erleaping, and then to fall. So this imagery shows us that he's stuck between not acting and doing something that will lead to his fall. Now, another way ambition is presented is that Macbeth lacks some of the mental qualities required to be able to kill a lawful king. As his wife says, "Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it." The repetition of "without" emphasises his lack of wickedness. That's what she calls illness. The point she makes here is that ambition, in this context, where power is handed down through the royal family, must be attended by wickedness. Attend here means to have as a servant, something that can help you. And this is why Lady Macbeth appeals to evil spirits to make her wicked. "Unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty." Unsex me means to change her from a woman into something non-human, a being who's full of cruelty from head to toe. Note that she needs to be filled from head to toe to achieve their joint ambition. Note also the word she uses for her head, crown, a word that can be used for the head in English, but which also reminds us of the royal crown she aims to help Macbeth to seize. But she then needs to use her mental strength to stop him from backing out of the murder. So she provokes him, saying, "Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire?" She's basically saying he's frightened. She goes on to use a simile, saying he's like the poor cat in the adage. This adage or proverb is about a cat who wanted to eat a fish in the river but didn't want to get his feet wet. So Lady Macbeth is urging him to be both physically and mentally brave and to follow through on his actions. The effects of such ruthless ambition come to the fore after the murder, which happens off stage in Act 2, Scene 2. The natural order is disturbed, a direct result of Macbeth breaking the great chain of being by killing the king. Chimneys are blown down, strange screams of death are heard, the earth shakes, a falcon is killed by an owl, Duncan's horses eat each other, and dark night strangles the travelling lamp. This latter quote translates as, "It remains dark during the day. The travelling lamp is the sun, travels across the sky." This external disruption of nature is mirrored by changes to Lady Macbeth. She walks in her sleep, saying, "Out, damn spot, out, I say." She's haunted by the idea that she cannot wash Duncan's blood off her hand. And note she carries a candle, which metaphorically represents the light of grace and forgiveness, that she cannot see. She then kills herself in despair. Lastly, ambition is presented as something that destroys the meaning of everything for Macbeth. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It means life, and it is a story told by an idiot. Here that will mean someone who is ignorant and stupid. And of course Macbeth is talking about himself. He has overreached. He's tried to take a step up the ladder and to assume a role that he was not allowed to take. So life now means nothing to him. His ambition has robbed him and his wife of everything valuable in life. There is of course one last question, and that concerns Banquo. He's also given a prophecy that his children will be kings. Why isn't he tempted to kill Duncan? Well, the first reason is that he's a virtuous man who would not kill the rightful king. So he does not break the great chain of being, the correct order of things. And why is this relevant? Well, because the King of England, when the play was written, was James I, and he thought of himself as the direct descendant of Banquo. So the play shows how evil is defeated and the righteous king is now on the throne of England. So do look out for some of these features as you read, watch and study the play, and I hope this brief video has given you some new insights that will help you to get greater enjoyment from Shakespeare's Macbeth. Give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe now so that you never miss any of my future posts.